Hello and welcome to We the People. How hard should it be to get a divorce? How much right should legislation, the law, the institution of the state have a right to be in your bedroom mediating the relationship of a marriage? A new controversy has erupted after several new interesting amendments have been proposed to the marriage laws in this country. Among them, that irretrievable breakdown should be a cause for divorce. The BJP and many of the left parties objected to this, saying that this clause should not be allowed unless women are also given 50% right to marital property that was acquired during the course of the marriage. And now there is another proposal that women should even have the right to a share of their ex-husband's inherited property. These are proposals that have divided public opinion. Many men, of course, are arguing that this is a law that is slanted against them. Women are saying that the reality of an unequal society is perhaps for a while you do need laws that are slanted against men. But where does individual liberty to make a personal choice coincide with the larger principles that some of these amendments are trying to uphold? Let me start with a personal story. Pooja Bedi, we know you from our TV screens, from our film screens. You have also spoken quite candidly about your own divorce. A lot of women and men don't actually find it easy to do that. They don't find it easy to come on TV and talk about it because we still remain, although things are changing, a society that can stigmatize somebody who's been through a divorce. It's insane, but it happens. Now, there are many women, and I have raised these questions among them, who would say, if you are economically self-reliant, why monetize a relationship? What was your experience?
Barkha, I met my ex-husband when I was 20 years old. I was earning very well for myself. I had a fantastic life. I was traveling business class. I could afford myself every luxury. I got married to Farhan, who insisted I give up my career, as most men in India tend to do, saying sit at home, take care of the home, the babies, you know, and if you have to work,
why did you say yes?
You will help me with.
Why did you say yes?
Because he had a lot of insecurities.
Why
he had a lot of insecurities and apprehensions about the field of work I was in, the industry, vis-a-vis all the rumors, the gossip mills, the link-ups, etc., etc. In all fairness, I married him at 20, I divorced at 32. During the course of those 12 years, I helped him from inception to success set up a furniture store, a highly reputed furniture store called Furniture Wala. Now, I helped him with production, with sales, with delivery, with client handling, with marketing, promotions, and it built into a mega store. When I got divorced, I got nothing, zero, because here's a perfect wife who sits at home, takes care of the kids, is a fantastic wife, she helps you in your work, she's loyal, she's honest, she's great, she's wonderful, you don't want to let her go, but the marriage is terrible, maybe the husband is really not the one you want to spend the rest of your life with. I don't want to badmouth him here, I just want to talk about the inequality of things.
Was it a mutual decision to get divorced, or was it yours?
Well, we wanted to, I wanted to be divorced, we gave it another chunk of time to basically think things through and work out things. It was irretrievable, it was an irreparable breakdown of marriage. And I had 2 children. And at the end of it, I walked out with nothing. I had a fantastic lawyer, Mahesh Jethmalani, you know, and he said, Pooja, the laws in this country do not support you. At the end of the day, you will be in an arduous court battle for years on end. And God knows what you get out of it. And I thought to myself, here I will be fighting for money, and my children will end up resenting their father. It will be a public spectacle given the fact, you know, I'm a celebrity. I just don't want to go down that road. I know I can do it on my own. And of course, there were lots of people who turned and said, Pooja, you know, you're in your 30s, you've got 2 kids, it'll be that much more difficult for you to get back. What are your life skills at this point of time? Because I had no more life skills over those 12 years that had been developed.
So you didn't go to court at all to ask for alimony?
I asked him, but he said no. He said, I'm happy to have you stay, but if you want to go, you can go without anything. So that was my choice, and I just said, I want to be happy. I don't care if I'm poor, but I just want to wake up and sleep happy.
And who did the looking after for the children?
I did.
Entirely on your own?
No, he did say that he would take care of the children financially. He gave money, not enough perhaps to take care of all their needs, but he certainly put out money towards them. I got nothing, and I started off writing columns with Midday for 4,000 rupees per column, terrified as to how I would afford anything for myself. I had a little bit of inheritance given to me by my mother. My father didn't put a penny towards my marriage. He didn't put a penny towards my divorce, didn't help me at all. And I started because the important thing was to get on my feet and get somewhere. Luck favors the brave. It favored me. Within a year and a half, I was driving the same Mercedes car as my ex-husband. I bought myself properties. I bought myself a much grander life than I actually had during the time I was married.
Kirti, picking up on that last point, of course there are privileges of class, privileges of education, privileges of opportunity that some of us have here that the vast majority of women in this country do not have. There are questions and dilemmas that arise as to how much space you should allow the state into the institution of marriage. And the worry that a lot of people, even those who champion women's rights, would have in this is why oppose irretrievable breakdown of marriage as a cause for two people to, or even one person to walk out of a relationship. Should she be imprisoned into a marriage that she doesn't want to stay in, hypothetically speaking, because she can't find any of the other 7 reasons, which are adultery, cheating, conversion to religion, disappearing for 7 years, a venal form of leprosy, desertion, whatever. I mean, as adults, should this not be a freer choice? Why have the left and the right opposed a breakdown of marriage as a cause for divorce?
Well, I don't think the left has opposed breakdown of marriage as a ground for divorce per se. I mean, I don't think women who are working with other women will also oppose the ground because of issues of personal liberty. And as you said, nobody should be tied down to a person they don't want to.
Yeah.
Having said that, what happens today is that women in India don't have an option. They do not have an option to walk out of a marriage because we have seen, I've done a survey, 95% of them do not have a place to go to. They cannot, they are often left, more than 80% are left with their children.
Yeah.
There's a sharp fall of over 50-70%. They can't regain that fall, unlike Pooja, who was, who had certain talents. They cannot make up, and so they live a lifestyle which is like, 70-80% below the lifestyle that they were living. They are dependent on their parents, and this is a reality that we have to take into account. Also, we have to see that it's not a question of money. It's a question of a right. A woman should have an equal right. Whether her contribution is financial or non-financial, she is primarily the caretaker of the house and looks after the children, the elderly, even working women, we find, are really looking after the children. Why shouldn't she have half of whatever?
Is there a distinction in pushing a man to provide more for the children and a distinction in the woman also wanting the same lifestyle, which is one of the references that courts often follow? And I ask this because I think that I can't shake off this feeling personally that if I was in a relationship and therefore with another person be able to enjoy X lifestyle, and then on my own it became Y lifestyle, I just say fine, this is how much I can afford, it's okay.
Well, only if you don't have the feeling that, look, I've given my best, I've lost, say, 20 years of my life, I'm not going to be able to make this up, how will my children live? If you don't have that feeling, fine, there will be individual women who will think like that. There will be women who are capable of doing, say, what Pooja has done. But there will be, the vast majority, I say, will not be. And we should really look at them. There should be an economic valuation, and I don't mean it in a negative sense, their housework, their contribution to the house. Why should their contribution not be recognized? Why shouldn't it be recognized that they are, their children's primary parents? Most mothers are. Yet in this country, they are neither the natural guardian, under all the personal laws, nor are they given special benefits.
Okay, Mukul Rothki, coming in both as a legal perspective and somebody who is a lawyer in a very interesting case. We had the Smriti Shinde case where your client actually went to the Supreme Court, all the way to the Supreme Court. She wanted to get out of her marriage, and the initial consent by her former husband to have it be a mutual consent turned into a contested plea. And the courts along the way said, patch up. She said, no, I don't want to be with this man, change the rules. Why is divorce so difficult?
As a lawyer, I have seen hundreds of these cases in the last 30 years. And as a lawyer, I want to concentrate on the amendment which is proposed, rather than larger issues of, compensating somebody who spent half a life bringing up children and all that. See, I have a difficulty. I mean, I am all for irretrievable breakdown, because you cannot bind two people together where the bond is dead. But first, let us understand that divorces are a phenomena of the urban, the metropolitan, the semi-urban, much less in the villages. But when you apply this law, it's going to be all across the country. Now first let us talk about a matrimonial home. You say divide half a matrimonial home as you have in the US. In the US, most people individually own houses or flats.
Yeah.
In this country, 3 brothers get together and purchase a flat jointly and pay an installment.
Yeah.
They have 3 wives, 3 brothers. Their parents move in who are 80 years of age. One man, one wife has a dispute. You can't now divide one flat into 3. Suppose all 3 have a problem. So it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 in a given case.
Yeah.
So they are divided, the 3 spouses get it, where do the parents go? Take a case, you have a 5-bedroom flat, 3 generations living, all married. So you have 8 people living in 8 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms with 8 people. How will you divide? Division is partition. Partition can only be done either by consent or by legal degree. It's going to take 20 years to have a partition. If you are going to include inherited wealth, most of the agricultural lands in this country are inherited. They come from Dada, Pusht. How are you going to divide that? And if you are going to divide that, you are locking that couple in order to compensate somebody, which I think compensation must be very handsome. But in order to compensate, if you are going to get stuck in this, I am sorry, the legal system in this country is going to take you down, is going to be like a quicksand, and you will forever get involved in all this. I am all for this irretrievable breakdown. I am all for compensating the weaker part, that is the wife generally, because the man will ask for this divorce. Provide some method by which you have handsome compensation for the woman on the basis of some formula, break the umbilical cord, tell her to have this money, children.
But not, you don't support 50% of marital property.
No, because it's not going to work. And if it works, it's going to take half the life is gone in divorces from lower court to Supreme Court.
So as some,
and the other half will go on in this division.
So, and Anand, what this does, and I have friends who speak about this, it scares people of divorces, at least in urban pockets. And it scares people of divorces because from wedlock you're going to deadlock, because you're locked into litigation, because it takes years and you say, let me just suffer and stay put. Isn't this also a question of individual liberty?
No, I don't agree with you there, because all divorces are actually through a statute. It is through a statute, except for certain divorces like Muslims, talaq, they are by personal law, otherwise they are by a statute. So the state has already interfered with your liberty. You can't
by definition, the institution is that.
So there is a question of, this is a false notion. One. Secondly, all countries, they have community of property now, most of them. We have that even in Goa. I'm surprised that Mukul is saying it doesn't work there. It works there. It depends on the attitude. Yes, the legal system stinks, but that is not an answer, because it's a matrimonial property.
Do you support these amendments?
Which ones? That's the issue.
Let's start with irretrievable breakdown.
Irretrievable breakdown of marriage on its own will actually mean that a lot of women will be on the roadside. So you have to make sure that they are actually paid for. Either you give property or you give compensate in terms of property, because the woman needs a place to stay.
How do you define, therefore, in this case?
But there are different ways of doing it. So we have to discuss it.
So these amendments that say 50% of residential property, that now propose to get inherited property as well, do you support that?
I support what I call community of property. We have to value the woman's right actually to work in a house, because she has an option. If she stays at home, she's contributing to her husband's wealth, so she actually contributes to that, so she's entitled to what we call community of property, which is brought after the marriage.
But that already exists in law. The judge's discretion decides what a woman should get.
It doesn't exist in India. It doesn't exist. What exists in India is only the right to reside in the matrimonial home. Just 1 minute. Even in the Domestic Violence Act, we had put, the position was that she could stay even in a house which belonged to the father-in-law. The Supreme Court said, on what basis, it's difficult to understand. No, if it is only the husband's house, she can stay. Now in that situation, like Mukul says, a lot of the houses are actually owned by the father-in-laws. That's where the woman goes, she gives up her job. Where does she go? And most of the problems for a woman who gets a divorce is that she is shelterless.
Would you leave it to the judge's discretion, or would you quantify the amount?
It's either way. But it should include the community. You can leave it either to the judge or have a statute or a formula which allows for compensating for the woman who stays in the house and contributes to the wealth of the husband.
Come in briefly and then
Barkha, you cannot leave this to the judge. The judge requires some guidelines and some parameters.
What should that guideline be? That's what we are debating.
The guideline will have to be for a judge to calculate the intrinsic wealth of the man,
but
what he is earning.
Is that when so many businesses are cash run?
1 minute, madam.
There are so many people that do cash business in our country.
Let me explain.
You cannot.
Let me explain. Let me explain.
On the basis of the lifestyle.
Let me explain. It's very simple to calculate. You have motor accident claim cases.
Yeah.
You have insurance cases. In motor accident claim, if somebody dies, there is a formula in the law.
You know what you get?
Please understand.
Life is not motor accident, unfortunately.
Why don't you allow me to speak?
Okay.
In motor accidents claim, you have a multiplier formula. It may be wrong, it may be right, it may be poor, but there is a formula on the basis of which you decide how much will the man work, how much will he earn, and therefore what is the compensation. I am not saying apply that formula. You apply.
But then why don't you support the formula of the 50% right to marital property?
Why not? Because it would mean too much to be given to the woman, I think.
No, but I'm saying yes.
You'll give her something, but not too much.
Let there be 50% calculation of marital property, which is clearly defined as property purchased by the husband during the course of marriage. Divided 50%, no problem.
Okay.
But you cannot have it if it is joint, if it is a pagdi, if it is tenancy, if it is inherited. There you are going to get.
Okay. I just want to get Jaya Jetli in to ask a slightly politically incorrect question. Are we not now reducing marriages and divorces to some commercial transaction?
I agree completely. In fact, even the whole idea of quantifying housework and having a man pay his wife for doing the housework, I don't feel comfortable with that. Because
why not?
Actually, if you look sociologically at why marriages came about in the first place, why does society require marriage? In the old days, it was because communities and groups required to protect themselves, and you had to procreate, and then you came settled life. So you had property and you had to pass the property on. So these were social contracts in any case. Now when you try to bring social contracts with all the complications that we are hearing today, and you have this interfere with very personal, intimate relationships between two human beings, you're going to have this bizarre situation we have today when we are trying to calculate a whole lot of things, and people are not only going to say the state is interfering with divorce, but people are going to not get put off divorce, they're going to get put off getting married.
They are already getting putting off marriage.
No, and it's fine. I personally feel, and you know, 40 years ago, somebody, a democratic socialist like Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia said that a couple who are honest with each other and respect each other, it's a far better relationship even if they're not married than if they are married. So I think we have to look in these modern times at what is marriage for. So people are you wanting to be together. If you don't want to be together, then to scratch each other's eyes out to say what can I get from the other person, and especially look at lifestyle we're talking about. What is the lifestyle of a rickshawala or a daily wage worker? What is the woman going to get? There is a different attitude towards marriage also in the rural areas, where if your husband is beating you, you have your sisters-in-law, brothers-in-law, mothers-in-law, somebody. We also have communities in this country where you can go back to your parents. We're looking at an urban, patriarchal situation. Back to the original question of irretrievable. If there's mutual consent, irretrievable, you cannot force two people to live together. But what if it's one person who wants to leave and the other person wants to stay? Well, they'll go on fighting like cats and dogs. Why should the whole community get involved in it? 200 courts and judges.
I just want to say one thing very quickly. You know, in a business, you pay your employees a gratuity, their bonuses, when you want to leave, there's a certain amount of pay, etc., etc. But there's a partnership, and marriage is a partnership where you're not an employee and a boss, that you're being paid for something. You're an equal partner. But does that mean both people need to want to get out at the same time? No, that doesn't matter. If it's not working, it's not working. And you should have the ability to get out. But then why is lifestyle so important? Jaya has raised an important point. Well, if you can afford it for yourself, you can afford it for your partner and your own children. It's as simple as that. And you should want to. I'll give you a simple example again connected to my life. My father divorced my mother. There were no laws back then to help the Indian woman get a certain acceptable amount out of her divorce. You know, the flat was put onto my name, some 70,000 rupees flat. My mother got nothing from the divorce. My father's buying fancy champagne glass at $100 stem. We don't have tomato ketchup in the house. He's buying expensive designer wardrobe stuff. My mother's cutting up her saris to make us clothes. On the other hand, he goes to America, has an American wife, gets an American divorce. He has to sell the house. He has to give 50%. He has to take care of the child. He goes to London. He marries Nikki. There's English law. He gives her the house. You know, so I mean, why should Indian women suffer because the laws don't protect them?
But hang on, Ranjana Kumari, is the damn champagne glass so important?
I think it is.
Why?
I'll tell you why. I mean, two principles.
That's important.
It's the lack of ketchup that's important.
Not the champagne glass.
Okay.
Let me tell you, both are important. But do we accept those both principles in our society? One, that women have equal right to property, whatever form of property. Because when the lawyer speaks, I remember the Hindu Succession Act being debated in India's parliament. Similar arguments were given. Till date, we have not been able to correct, because no parent want to willingly give equal share to the daughter in property.
But that is my question here. Why is there so much emphasis?
The second principle, let me complete. Second principle, post-industrial revolution, the whole new cultural ethos and cultural history was written, and in that cultural history, productive work got the value by the society. Reproductive work was always seen something which was just voluntary, which has no value whatsoever. And that is why reproductive work was assigned to women. When you are thrown out of that marriage, there is a divorce, especially in India now. It didn't happen in England, in America, because they realized that post-industrial revolution, we need to correct and make corrections in the system.
But I want to ask something.
But we did not do it. We did not do it.
Fair enough, I got your point. But I want to ask something.
Throw her out with children on the street without any support whatsoever.
Okay, I don't think anybody here is arguing that a woman who has no other means of income or looking after the children should not be given protection. I think the cases become more complex when the woman may have, Mukul, some source of income, but maybe not earn as much as the man she was married to once used to. In which I think Jaya Jetli makes an important point, that individual pride may lead some of us to say, I live without the ketchup and I live without the champagne glass, I just don't want to take a paisa from anybody. My worry here is, have we forgotten that our aim and our goal should be to make women self-reliant? Are we reinforcing very patriarchal stereotypes of the man as the provider and the woman as the recipient here?
See, man as the provider and woman as taking care of the house, etc. is the general ethos in this country, considering the vast majority of people living in villages. And India lives in villages. So what you are discussing here, you cannot apply the same thing there. That's number one.
Fair enough.
Number two, even in a case of divorce, when alimony or maintenance per month pending a divorce is being decided, the law provides that the judge will assess the level of the wife, if she is separate, what she is earning, as opposed to where the husband is, and based on that and the lifestyle which the lady may have been used to, the law enjoins that so much maintenance should be allowed so that it should be able to have somewhat similar conveniences.
Can I ask Jaya, before I take it to Kirti, your own experience, because we've heard Pooja's experience. You have a personal experience as well. You were married and then you parted, you said in interviews that I've read, reasonably amicably from the man that you were married to. He went on to even have another family. You said it was fine. Did that lifestyle equivalence matter to you that much?
Not at all. In fact, I was asked by him whether I wanted an alimony, and I said, no, thank you. When we had money together, we shared it. If we're not sharing a life, I don't want to share your money. And however it is, I managed. Because I took that attitude, today my former husband, his wife, his family are among my best friends. And I feel whatever we should try and do in life should be towards better relationships rather than finding things to be bitter about.
Kirti, you want to come in there?
I want to come in on two things. One,
on this economic side, why do we not talk about self-reliance anymore?
No, we should talk about self-reliance, but unfortunately we are not living in a society in which certain household tasks are socialized. You didn't have to cook. If you didn't have to maintain the house, then fine. I am all for it, that the eventual thing is to make a woman self-reliant, but in a situation when that is not happening. And I tell you, women do feel bad, because they have to literally beg the court, beg their husbands, then somehow come to a settlement. That's why the law should be clear, that recognize the two people living together as equal, recognize that they both contribute towards the household. So whatever the household has got, Please, for God's sakes, divide it. If you can't divide it, assess it in monetary terms. And I think the procedure for division should not be such a problem. We can work that out.
Actually, but how many court decisions have really given the alimony to the wife according to the lifestyle she was used to and her children were used to?
I have a question here for Mukul and Anand. The question is this. We are now talking about a right to inherited property. If it goes through, the question arises, what about the parents of the daughter? Do parents completely sort of lose any duty to their daughters? We never have the law talking about that.
So the problem is that nobody has thought it out.
Yes,
nobody
exactly.
has thought out the fact.
So why should daughter not get a
Let him just speak. Let him just speak.
That's what I'm saying, that when you do this, you have to think it out. You can't have knee-jerk reactions, give half. Somebody gets married today, he may have an inherited house. So after 1 year of marriage, the marriage breaks, before even the husband and the wife know each other well or respect each other well. Will you divide it? Is that fair?
Anand, answer that.
I don't know.
Answer that.